particularly AA and NA, about the 12 steps, a little bit about sponsorship, but just give you basically an overview, a little bit of history of the 12 steps, and what they're used for, just for people on the outside that are struggling with addiction. 12-step program, AA started actually in the 30s, started in 1935. It was started by Bill Wilson and Dr. Robert Holbrook Smith, who are known affectionately as Bill W. and Dr. Bob, in accordance to the anonymity that AA gives you. So anyways, they started out in 1935. Back then what had happened was Bill W. could not stay sober to save his life, even losing his marriage, different jobs. Finally, what happened, he was hospitalized. And then when he left the hospital, he went out on to a conference. And in the job he had, he was into sales back then in the 30s. And so he goes to this conference, and once the conference is over at 5 o'clock in the evening, usually there's, cocktail parties and different things that salespeople do in the world. So what he did is he went and got on the payphone and called up a church, called a couple churches. And so stayed on the phone with one of these pastors for a couple hours. Then what he started doing is he started running into people that had a drinking problem. He would take them into his house, actually, against his wife's wishes, really. But he was maintaining his sobriety through this. And so what they found out was that him and Dr. Bob, when they met and talked, they found the quality of one addict helping another, to be able to talk to them, be able to give them support, to be able to talk about these things. And as things went along, he learned that he wasn't just actually doing this for that person, but he was also doing it to strengthen his own recovery. So anyways, they started out in 1935. It caught on pretty well. The steps were originally written through the Oxford group, and they had really strong biblical connections. Even though AA is not a religious program, more of a spiritual program. So it took off in 1935. Shortly after, 1953, Narcotics Anonymous, NA, started with a group of 6 men. They had 6 men, and they voted a chairperson. His name was Jimmy Kinnan, who's known affectionately as Jimmy K now back then in the NA circles. They had ups and downs and stuff NA did for whatever reasons for a while. And it wasn't until 1972 that NA really took off, became worldwide, Brazil, Japan, different places. Now they are on 170 countries and written language, 90 languages it's written in, the big book is. So anyways, they started out then. And so now in the 12-step world, because of the steps and the 12 steps is almost a prescription for right living, in a way, of living your life, in a full, a good way. When we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. If you said something, or you feel like you wronged somebody, you turn back around later on that week and you try to clean it up and say, I'm sorry, make amends for it. And so I think that's why the 12-step programs have been so successful since they started, and because of their success, they've crossed over. Now we have Overeaters Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Sex Addiction Anonymous. We have all these anonymous groups basically sharing a couple traits. The 12 steps, they might be a little bit different, but pretty much the same, as well as fellowshipping and working through different various addictions. So anyways, I'm going to go over the 12 steps briefly with you right now, just to touch on them. Step 1 was we admitted we were powerless over drugs and alcohol, and that our lives had become unmanageable. It's just basically getting to a place to where you admit that you do have a problem, admitting it, in addiction and in treatment centers and stuff. One of the very first things that you got to break through with a client is their denial. We hold on to this denial just to hold it. Once we get through the denial and you're able to say that my life is unmanageable, then you're at a place where you could start. Step 2 is we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So basically what that is that it lets us know that it's not, it's not me. I tried it my way, and my way didn't work. So let me reach out and think of something other than myself. Then that. Step 3 was we made a decision to turn our lives in the care of God turn our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. You'll notice that through 12 steps in different programs, when they mention God, it says followed by as we understood Him. So it's kind of what our viewpoint is. I know that they've had acronyms as far as God goes in 12 steps of AA or NA. Use words like group of drunks or good orderly direction. Basically what it is we want to look at something that is beyond us, other than us. So spiritual step. Step 4 is one of the steps that is really hard for some people to do because it makes you sit down. I remember sitting down and writing out my 4th step. And when I was writing out my 4th step, it was hard for me because I had to really go back, and the way I did it in a chronological order. So what I would do is, I started using when I was 17 years old, and then from using my experience of using in criminal activity, just all the damage I did in my life started pretty much back then. And so I had to write down, stuff that I did, things I didn't feel good about, and make this long, exhausted list of it. And so after doing that, then you had to share it with God and somebody other than yourself. And that's usually done with a sponsor. I'll touch on sponsorship here in a minute in regards to what a sponsor, what do you look for in a sponsor, what a sponsor really is, and how to work through that. So I'll touch on that in a minute. So step 6 is we were ready to have God remove all of our defects of character. And so basically what this is that it gave us a chance then, it's our old behavior brought us down the road in our addiction. And so we have all this old behavior, all these things, all these old habits, all these ways of thinking that were bad, negative, that made me live the kind of life that I did. And so basically it's trying to get rid of those old behaviors and start to clean up the mess that, I started. Step 7, I call 6 and 7 the spiritual steps because they're similar to step 3 in the fact about them being spiritual. So step 7 is humbly ask God to remove these defects of character from us. So basically, as far as recovery goes and working the steps and, trusting God and getting out of our own way, humility is so important. I shared my testimony February. This year was February 15th, Saturday, February the 15th, and I believe it still gets restreamed. And so if you haven't saw it, it'd be great if you want to go back there and you want to look at it. I'd love to share my story with you. I would love to share my life with you, all for the intent of reaching out and helping and assisting. And, as we go along, you get to know me. I'm going to have these weekly talks on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. So we can get to know each other through time. Anyways, you can go back there and you can take a look at it and you'll learn a little bit more about me and my journey. But anyways, I was talking about humility, and when I was sharing last time, a lot of people think that humility or being humble, humility is something that's humiliating. And it's not. What it really is humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking of yourself less often. So, it's just, if I was able to give somebody a trait in recovery, first thing I probably would give them would be being able to be humble, being able to be teachable. Step 8 is we made a list of all the people that we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them. So this is similar to step 4 in the way that, we've got to look back and we've got to list, all these things. And the way that I did step 8 when I did it, I chronologically went back through, grab these for me, please. Sorry about that. Knock some stuff over here. Yeah, start it here. Okay. So anyways, I'm sorry about that. I dropped some stuff around here. Step 9 is taking that list of people. And what I was saying was as I went on, you know, step eight was very similar to me to step 4. But the only difference is that the list that we made and the people that we hurt and the harm that we did, in step 9, we actually put, you know, boots on the ground. We put, you know, things in motion to where we were able to go back and make amends to these folks. I was trying to think of my testimony that somebody that lived next door to me back when I was using this, is probably in the early 80s, broke into their house, sold their toolkit, take the toolkit, go down and hawk it, get money, go buy dope. And I mean, this is one of probably 100, you know, different things that I've done in my addiction. I had no boundaries. I didn't really have no remorse. I was going to use. And so what I would do is I would get money the only way I could, and that was go rip people off. So anyways, I ran back into the gentleman 25 years later. This is more than that, actually. It was probably more like 30 years later, running on a trail. And I was able to start up a conversation with him and, you know, tell him what I did. And basically his response was, I know that's what you did. And so being able to do what I could do from there, you know, if it means, you know, going and giving somebody $200, the opportunity wasn't there to actually give him money back for the tools. It was just a short conversation. And I don't really necessarily know that he even really accepted my apology. And sometimes in life, when you're doing a step 9, that's going to happen. That, you know, you might not be able to have them forgive you, but you have to remember it's the act of going and sincerely doing that and being sincere in it. And if there's a way of patching it over or working it out, then you do that, you know. And in step 9, it says there's a part of the last part of step 9 is except when doing so could harm you or others. So in other words, like, you can't force something on somebody, or not. There's certain things that you can't do, you know. But the main thing is making that gesture and doing it and walking through it. Okay, and step 10 now is we continue to take a personal inventory in life, and when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. So it's similar to step 4. It's similar to step 8 in and of itself. So I like to call steps 10, 11, and 12. I would like to call them the maintenance steps, because you know, it's maintenance. It's not like a one and done. It's not like we sit down and we write the 4th step and then we take that 4th step and we share it with our sponsor and we kind of try to patch up our past with that. Where step 10 is a daily, a weekly, you act, you know, look back over your week. You know, did I say something to my dad? Did I say something to my sister? Did I do this or did I do that? And honestly asking yourself these things, and then circle back around and say, you know, patch things up if you can. Okay, step 11 is sought through prayer and meditation, our constant contact with God, praying for only his knowledge of our will and the power to carry it out. So I work in a treatment facility right now. So I'm able to, you know, help other people. It's, you know, knowledge to carry it out, you know. So it's like I said, it's a maintenance step. It's a step where you're in contact, you know. Prayer, for me, it's prayer. For others, it might be something different than prayer. But it's basically a connection to be able to, you know, be in contact with God, kind of be led by God, and do that step. Okay, the last step is having a spiritual awakening. As a result of these steps, carry the message to the addicts and practice these principles in all of our affairs. Similar to 10 and 11, it's a maintenance step. This is something that is like I said about step 4. It's not one and done. Step 4 is really not one and done either. During my recovery, I mean, I started in 1981 trying to get clean. 87, there's been many times and many relapses when I tried to get sober. So, you know, there's lots of 4 steps. Even if you stay sober, and you're sober for 10 years, people still work the steps on a daily basis. And sometimes you go back through them again and again. You just don't go through the steps one time. You go through them again and again, which I will get to when I talk about sponsorship here in a minute. Okay, so going to sponsorship, to pick somebody that is a sponsor, or what does a sponsor do, basically, is you want to look at a sponsor and pick a sponsor. You want to pick you want to pick a sponsor by, listening to his share, watching him in meetings, talk to people. How many people does he know? Stuff like that. Somebody that you're attracted to that could help you. And part of their thing is when you get a sponsor, they actually have sponsorship meetings you can go to. When you start going to 12-step meetings, I would recommend that you go to a sponsorship meeting. And what that is in the beginning of the meeting, people will raise their hands basically and say that they're willing to sponsor. So there might be 8 people, there might be 10 people that are available as a sponsor. So that's a good place to start. Or like I said, you look for somebody that you're attracted to, or something that you heard them share, something the way that they interact after the meeting with other people. There's a host of that. So what a sponsor is doing, basically, a sponsor is making an agreement to you to walk beside you, to help you through frustrations, to help you through, struggles, to help you through wanting to drink or wanting to use. That's basically what they're signing up for, that they're there for that. And this is a wonderful thing that you're able to be able to sponsor somebody, to be able to sponsor you like that. Also, a sponsor would be somebody to share your hurts, habits, and hangups with. And getting to this is because of the importance of step 5, that you can, share these things with this person, especially in early recovery. People say, oh, well, I don't have a sponsor right now. They've been, sober 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Well, why don't you have a sponsor right now? I just don't feel like, I've met the right person yet. What is the right person, or something you could look for, is what I'm saying. I'm telling you what sponsors do. But the thing is in early recovery, your first couple of weeks, you need somebody there beside you to help you, to be able to talk to you. They're basically agreeing, when they become your sponsor, to be available to you when you're going through these things. And so anyways, that's part of what they're for. And in doing this and sharing these things with your sponsor basically is also saying to you that he's willing to keep, what you're sharing with him confidential, keeping your anonymity to where you don't know this. And so anyways, I would suggest getting a sponsor in your first week or 2 of recovery, at least to have somebody guide you and show you the process. A sponsor also would do, the thing about a sponsor is like I was saying, you see somebody that, you're attracted to, and you kind of find that out by seeing how they interact with other people at meetings and stuff. And so once you do get a sponsor, I would look somebody that has several years of recovery, somebody that would be able to guide you, somebody that's working the steps themselves. How do you know that, right? 5 years clean, how do you know that? You'll hear your sponsor share in meetings, and we'll talk about, well, I did my 9th step, or I helped my sponsee do, my 5th step. We'll just walk him through whatever. And so you'll know this from hearing him share. And for the reason for them knowing a lot of people, what a good sponsor does is, a good sponsor will take you, he'll put you under his wing. He will introduce you around to others that he knows through meetings. And you're gonna need this. The reason this is so important is that when I first got clean, my spiritual sponsor told me, he said to me, Greg, you've got to change playgrounds and playmates. And so what that meant is I needed to make new friends. I needed to hang out at different places. And so now I'm this guy that's got 3 days clean. I'm doing what my brother suggested, or somebody suggested to me. You need to go to meetings. You need to do this. Well, that's fine and well that you need to do this stuff, but you do need to meet new people. So a good sponsor will introduce you around to people, to introduce you. will go to at least one meeting a week with you, if not more. When you're new in recovery, or even in recovery, especially new in recovery, you should be attending. Meetings probably three or four times a week, just to be able to stay grounded. So anyways, one of the important things about a 12-step meeting is just one function of the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. The other side of it that's just as important as that is the part of after a meeting or at another time. After a meeting, it's not uncommon for people to go out and fellowship afterwards. Where they go, they have, say there's an 8 o'clock meeting, the meeting gets over at 9. It's not unusual for a group of people, 5, 10, whatever, 5 people to go around the corner and sit and have coffee or pastry or whatever there. And so in doing that, you're exposed to these folks. You're brand new, you're nervous, probably this, your sponsor, like I said, will introduce you around and try to make you feel comfortable. And so sitting there at the table that you might be sitting at the table with, one guy might be a biker that shot meth for 30 years. Other person could be a doctor. Somebody could be all walks of life. Addiction does not discriminate. And so you ask questions. You pick their mind. You say, what was it like for you? What was your first week of first week in recovery like? How did you feel? Did you have trouble sleeping? Just ask these questions. You have ask these different questions from different people. What was it like for you to do step 4? Did your sponsor give you a format? Did your sponsor give you some questions and stuff that you needed to answer? How were you guided along through that process? So that's the importance of fellowshipping. Also, with the 12-step involvement, there's different things, different activities you can do. They have clean and sober bowling leagues. As part of, a few years back, part of a clean and sober softball league, which was really, really cool. Some people take it a little too serious, but it was really cool. So that's kind of about 12-step meetings. As far as I'm going to go into the steps in another discussion where I'll just go over the steps and I'm able to describe them and talk about them in a little bit more detail than I did today, and not as scattered as I did today. In my notes, I try to be humble, reachable, teachable, and genuine, which I am. But anyways, I'll go into those in more depth. So, what's the importance of 12-step meetings? What is the goal? What do 12-step meetings have to offer you to recover? Number one, they're a safe place to go to recovery. Number one, you're not going to go someplace where people are drinking or doing drugs there. It's a place that you can go and hang out where you'll meet people that don't use drugs and alcohol. There is a spiritual component to recovery. And then there's also a worldwide, you have an access of a worldwide network that's available. I think I shared earlier before that with AA. AA now is in 190 different countries, and the big book is interpreted and written in 90 different languages. Imagine that. 90 different languages the big book is. So it is literally all over the world. If it's a night and you're struggling, day and you're struggling, and you just need some support, or you need to go to a meeting, but you there's not a meeting around you anywhere, you can go online and type in, go into a meeting. They have online meetings where you can go on there and you can hear hear people and feel supported and jump right in there in the meetings. That's always available to you. Also through Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, they have hotlines. They have an AA hotline and an NA hotline where they have people that don't get paid. Basically, they're volunteers. Same as somebody that's the secretary or chairperson at a meeting would be. And if you need to talk and you're struggling, you can call that number and talk. That's basically what they're signing up for. So, and also, I think one of the main things about meetings is that you find a meeting, a big meeting, you'll have exposure to people that have lots of clean time. You're being exposed to a lot of people that have been clean for a lot of years. And like I said, that's when you ask questions. You pick people's brains. You know, what is it like to, you know, what did you feel like your first couple of weeks when you were getting clean? Were you able to sleep? You know, all these questions that we have. I mean, you got to remember that everybody, we're this is one the thing about 12-step is it's one addict helping another addict. And that's the beauty of it. And it's totally free. It costs absolutely nothing. So yeah, that's really nice. And so anyways, I'll talk more in depth next, you know, about the 12 steps as far as, you know, breaking the steps down and what do they mean? What are they like? You know, if you go online, there's 1,000 different people with 1,000 different views of them. And a lot of it is just, you know, jargon and this and that. You know, you need to sit down with somebody. That's why your sponsor is so important. You need to sit down with your sponsor. Your sponsor will break all this stuff down for you in a way that you can understand. Next week, I'm planning on talking about relapse prevention. So we'll go in a little bit about triggers, coping strategies, different things that you can use to walk you through times that you might think are slippery. So next week, I will see you at 6 o'clock next Wednesday. Thanks. You're shaking. I'm close.
Craig, we have lost you.